Imagine a ladder with steps from 1 to 10. Step 10 is the best possible life you can imagine for yourself. And step 1 is the very worst. Where would you place yourself right now? And where do you think you will be in 5 years from now? You can pause this video for a moment and write it down in the comments. I'd love to know where you see yourself. This question might sound simple, almost playful, but it's actually one of the most powerful tools researchers have used to understand human happiness. This is called the Cantril ladder or the happiness staircase. It was used in research by Nobel Prize winning economist Angus Deaton and psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who asked more than 1.7 million people across 160 countries to place themselves on this staircase. And almost everywhere, people said the same thing. Their future looked brighter than their present. That shows something universal about us. We are hopeful by nature. But here is the interesting part. The younger someone was, the brighter the leap they imagined for their future. As people grew older, those leaps grew smaller. Age and experience shape our expectations. Life teaches us that joy isn't always as simple or as lasting as we once believed, and optimism slowly softens into caution. So it raises a deeper question. If happiness always seems to live in the future, why does it shrink as we get older? And was it ever really waiting for us at the top of that ladder at all? Psychologists often talk about two types of happiness. There is short-term happiness, like eating an ice cream. It's sweet, exciting, but it's gone almost as soon as it arrives. And then there is the idea of long-term happiness, a kind of permanent life satisfaction where you imagine yourself content throughout your whole life. But there is the truth. Neither of these types of happiness are ever fully achievable. Why? Because our brains simply don't work that way. Negative experiences affect us more strongly and last longer than positive ones. You might get 10 compliments, but the one piece of criticism will stay with you for days. You might remember a painful argument from years ago more clearly than a dozen joyful moments around the same time. Psychologists call this the negative bias. It's our survival instinct, wired to focus on danger rather than joy. If your ancestors forgot a happy sunset, nothing bad happened. But if they forgot where the tiger lived, that was the end. And even when we manage to solve a problem, our brain quickly finds another one to replace it. That's why we never reach a point where everything feels finished and settled. Humans are natural warriors, endlessly creative in finding the next thing to stress over. There is a Buddhist teaching that captures this perfectly. It's the story of 83 problems. A farmer once came to the Buddha, listing all his troubles. His crops weren't growing, his children didn't listen, his cow was sick. He begged for a solution. The Buddha said, "I cannot help you with that. Everyone has 83 problems. When one disappears, another takes its place." The farmer, frustrated, asked, "Then what's the point of coming to you?" Buddha smiled and said, "I can help you with the 84th problem. And the 84th problem is believing you shouldn't have any problems at all." And that's the trap many of us fall into. We keep waiting for a time when problems vanish and happiness finally sticks. But life doesn't work like that. Psychologists have a term for this hedonic adaptation. It means that no matter what happens to us, good or bad, we eventually return to a baseline. Research on lottery winners found that after the initial thrill, within about a year, they return to nearly the same level of happiness as before. On the flip side, studies on people who experience serious accidents also showed that many eventually returned to close to their baseline level of happiness. We adapt, we adjust, and the heights and lows never last. Happiness is not a destination where you arrive and unpack your bags. It's a series of moments, always changing, always moving. And this is where dopamine comes in. Dopamine is often called the happiness chemical, but that's a misunderstanding. It isn't the hormone of happiness, it's the hormone of anticipation. It fuels the chase, the craving, the excitement before you reach the goal. Think of it this way. Dopamine is what makes dessert so irresistible before the first bite. But the second you finish eating, the thrill is gone. The reward itself never lasts. And you see this everywhere. You buy a new phone and for a few days it feels incredible. Soon it's just another object in your pocket. You finally get that promotion you've been working toward. The celebration lasts a night, maybe two. And then comes the stress, the responsibilities, and the familiar emptiness. Even in relationships, that honeymoon phase burns so bright because dopamine is urging you to bond. But when the high fades, you are left with something deeper, or with nothing at all. Evolution designed us this way. Nature doesn't want us permanently satisfied, because if we were, we would stop striving, stop searching, stop surviving. That's why happiness as a permanent state is an illusion. Our biology ensures the feeling is temporary. If dopamine keeps us chasing, it also keeps us living in the future. That's why so many of us believe happiness is always just around the corner. We tell ourselves, I'll be happy when I graduate, when I get that new job, when I finally buy a house, when I meet that right person, and when I retire. Every time the future arrives, it instantly turns into present, and the present rarely feels as magical as we imagined. The mind plays a trick. It makes the future shine while making the present feel incomplete or not enough. Think about it like waiting for an elevator. You stand there imagining how nice it will be once the doors open. But while you're waiting, that moment feels wasted, like empty space you would rather cut out of your life. Yet, in reality, waiting is as much life as any other moment. And yet, we still chase. We keep running on what scientists call the hedonic treadmill. We imagine happiness waiting on the next step of the ladder. The job, the house, the relationship. But as soon as we reach it, the step becomes ordinary and the ladder grows taller. That's why midlife crises often happen. By the time people reach their 40s or 50s, they've achieved the milestones they thought will bring lasting happiness, career, family, stability, and instead of peace, they feel emptiness. Because dopamine doesn't reward what you have, it only rewards what you are chasing. It's like running after the horizon. No matter how far you go, it never gets closer. A lot of us believe confidence will finally come when we achieve something big or maybe get that shiny new car, but here is the truth. If someone feels insecure, putting them behind the wheel of a luxury car doesn't suddenly make them confident. It just makes them an insecure person in an expensive car. I've seen the same thing happen with art. Some will say, oh, I'm not a real artist until I buy the best paints, or I'll feel proud once I sell a piece. But when you finally get the supplies or even make that sale, the old insecurity is still there. Why? Because the feeling wasn't about the tools or the recognition. It started inside. The opposite is just as true. I've watched people doodle with nothing more than a ball pen on scrap paper, or make music by humming into their phone, or dance barefoot in their living room. And the confidence shines through, not because anyone praised them, but because for those minutes they were fully themselves. And that's the gift of art. Whether it's painting, doodling, sculpting, writing poetry, or moving to music, it doesn't ask for permission or validation. It doesn't care about status symbols. It invites you into the moment and into expression. And in that space, you realize you don't need anything external to feel enough. Confidence is like happiness, doesn't live in cars, houses, or titles. It lives in the small, honest moments where you allow yourself to create freely. And art is one of the most direct ways to find it. And this brings me to growth. Some people might hear all of this and think, well, if happiness never lasts, why bother growing at all? Why try? The answer is simple. Growth matters, but not the way most of us think. We imagine growth as a staircase toward permanent happiness. Reach to the top and finally everything will feel complete. Well, the problem isn't growth itself. It's believing growth will deliver us to permanent happiness. That belief keeps us running, restless, never satisfied. But if you shift the focus, if you grow for the sake of growing, learn because you enjoy learning, paint because you love the way colors flow, play music because the sound fills you with life, then growth becomes something entirely different. It's not a race anymore. It's an experience. That's what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. It's when you are absorbed in what you are doing for its own sake. You forget time, you forget comparison, you stop waiting for happiness to show up at the finish line. You are just present. And ironically, people who live this way often achieve more because their energy doesn't burn out chasing illusions. There is the fear many people have. If I stop chasing happiness, wouldn't I lose my drive and just be lazy? Because what's the point? But the opposite is true. Chasing external happiness drains you because you never arrive. But when you stop running after the illusion, you discover a better kind of drive. One that comes from curiosity, love, and meaning. That drive doesn't need to be forced. It grows naturally and it lasts. Think about children. They don't draw because they expect praise or dance because they will get paid. They do it because play itself is enough. And in that play, they grow, they learn, and they flourish. That's the shift art can teach us as adults. To create not as a way of chasing happiness, but as a way of living in the present. And in that present moment, the illusion fades and something real takes its place. We often talk about life as if it's a path, a journey, or a climb. We imagine ourselves on a road with milestones, checkpoints, and a final destination. success, happiness, and enlightenment. But have you ever stopped to ask, where exactly is this road supposed to lead? Or where are we going? The British philosopher Alan Watts challenged this idea. He said, life is not a journey, it's more like a music. Think about it. When you listen to a piece of music, you don't do it to get to the end of it, right? You don't sit through a symphony just to hear the final note. The purpose is in the playing, in every sound along the way. And life is the same. It isn't something you walk through just to arrive somewhere else. It isn't about rushing to the last page of the book. It's meant to be experienced note by note, moment by moment. And the present moment isn't a stepping stone to something better. It is the main event. This is it. This is the music playing right now. So let me ask you again, on which step of the staircase do you stand right now? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's tempting to imagine that 5 years from now, everything will be brighter, easier, more complete. But here's the secret. No matter how old you are, no matter how much money you make, no matter how many boxes you've ticked, you won't suddenly feel like a completely different person at the top of the staircase. Happiness won't appear around the corner. It doesn't wait for you at the finish line. If you keep postponing it, it would always stay just out of reach. The point was never to race to the top. The point was to notice the step you're on, to feel it, to live it, to dance to the music that's already playing. Because happiness isn't the future. It isn't in achievements or possessions or other people's approval. Happiness is here, in this breath, in this moment, if you allow yourself to see it. Alan Watts once said, "This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it is a play." So maybe the real question isn't where am I going, but how can I be fully here? And that's where art helps us. Whether it's painting, doodling, writing, sculpting, or dancing, it's an invitation back into the present moment. It doesn't ask you to be perfect. It doesn't wait for the future. It just asks you to show up, to create, and to breathe life into this very moment. Now I'd love to hear from you. How does art in any form help you face your 83 problems and come back to the present? Share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe your words will be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for creating alongside me. Remember, life isn't a climb, it's a song. And your only task is to sing, to dance, and to create while the music lasts.